Activated, your window into how we can change the way in which we aspire for persons with disabilities, how we change our expectations from seeing inability to expecting ability. Activated takes us on a journey of taking lessons from persons with disabilities in how we must do things differently to unleash the contributions persons with disabilities can and must make to building a disability-inclusive Mzansi. Hello and welcome to Activated with me, your host, Taryn Tomlinson. People with disabilities and organizations of and for persons with disabilities are typically regarded as begging bowl in hand, dependent on the goodwill of others, a drain on economic wealth. This is an unfortunate image which is comparable to the image many Western and Eastern people hold of Africa and our people. These stereotypes are not only untrue, but they marginalize and degrade people. The truth is that Africa is the richest continent in the world, and persons with disabilities have on several occasions led to innovation in wealth creation. It's time to break down those stereotypes. Let's get activated. In today's program, we visit Bruno Druchen that creates a platform for employment and opportunities for deaf people in the hospitality industry. We find out more about Mike Freedman and the free thinkers who works with clients in the private and public sectors. We spoke to Sebenzile Matsebula, who is actively involved in advancing mainstreaming disability in South Africa, on the African continent and internationally. Due to lack of infrastructure and opportunities in the corporate world, many people with disabilities become entrepreneurs, finding ways to solve the problems they come across. Examples that come to the fore was the establishment of South Africa's first national lottery in the early 90s and the establishment of the Disability Employment Concerns, DEC. Let us meet Bruno Druchen, National Director of the Deaf Federation of South Africa, who spearheaded one of the most innovative collaborations in the hospitality industry between a hotel group and an organization advocating for persons with disabilities, Deaf SA.
Just allow me to give you some background of this hotel. This hotel and how this hotel came about. 10 years ago, Defs decided then to have a shareholders agreement with some other stakeholders. Alone, we could not have done it. So we had different departments where we wanted to have these deaf employees employed. So many deaf people did not have an opportunity to be educated into the hospitality sector. So the hotel gave then a crash course for our deaf employees, and that was a huge achievement for us to have deaf employees. So we also had an interpreter employed at the hotel, and through the years we saw that was a great value that deaf employees could add to the hotel. And yes, we have achieved our objectives. So with our neighbor, they saw that we have deaf employees. So the spin-off was that they also want to have then deaf employees. I will definitely advise other disability organizations to approach businesses. But before you want to enter to such an agreement, I want to encourage disabled organizations to study business and to really be very careful of shareholders' agreements, to study those agreements and to make sure that the design of that venture would then be disability friendly.
So, a personal story. The first time I stayed at the hotel with a group of friends, we called for room service. The first thing I noticed was that the waiter had the most beautiful eyes and smile. We told him to come inside, and only then did he point to his badge, which said, "I am deaf." We apologized and adjusted so that he could lip read, and he took our order and left. We were blown away. We were blown away by him and his demeanor. But also, we were blown away by this hotel that showed that they cared about people. My friends are able-bodied, but each time they come to Cape Town, they book into this particular hotel because A, they know I'll be comfortable, and B, because we want to support companies that care. Na die advertensiebreek gaan maak ons dra in Gauteng by Sebenzile Matsebula, die voorsitter van die Disability Empowerment Concerns Holding Company, and then I'll be chatting to Mike Freedman, founding partner of Free Thinkers. Alles dit net na die advertensie. Welcome back. Mike Freedman is the founder of Free Thinkers, which is partners in Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban. He works with clients in the private and public sectors to understand what is, discover what can be, and reach clarity on how to get there. Hello, Mike, and welcome to Activated. I'm very excited to have you here with us today. Mike, in a brief nutshell, what is Free Thinkers?
Free Thinkers helps companies build their brand from the inside out. Great ads don't build great brands, great cultures do. So we start with culture. And the other thing we do is work with places that are facing, if you like, uncertain futures. Our cities, our towns are instruments and artifacts of the past going into a future at a bewildering rate. We help them do that.
So what was the thinking behind the creation of Free Thinkers?
I was in advertising, I was a copywriter, I was a creative director. I won lots of international awards, had lots of fun. And then I was in the Namib Desert and I had the fortune and misfortune to break my neck. And when you lie in hospital for 6 months without moving a muscle, you start thinking about life. And I realized that I was very good at advertising, I was no longer passionate about it. So I thought, what am I passionate about? And I realized it was passion to create real change in the world.
According to you, Mike, how do we go about liberating the potential of persons with disabilities? How do we create a new culture, so to speak?
With a disability, you have a tight brief. There's an awful lot of stuff you can't do. Now, instead of focusing on what you can't do, my own mantra was victim or victor. Victim or victor. My choice. I didn't have a choice about how I broke my neck. I've got my own choice totally on how I deal with it. And so what I'm saying is you've got the gift of a tight brief. There's a lot of stuff you can't do. So what you can do it excellently.
Absolutely. I love those words. It reminds me of something that I always say, which means that your attitude determines your altitude. What are your thoughts on what government, the corporate world, civil societies, and persons with disabilities need to change in order to change the status of persons with disabilities in our society?
It is focusing on those persons of disability and helping them to find, you can't give it to them, helping them to find a different mindset, helping them to find the gift. You know, we're right in the middle of a pandemic. We're all disabled in many ways right now.
Yeah.
But within the terror and the tragedy of the pandemic, there are gifts. And if we ignore the gifts, we ignore everything that the pandemic could offer us. We're being victims again, not victors. So what the government can do is help us discover that mindset to be victors within this time. Help us to help ourselves.
Mike, I think the two of us are kindred spirits. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you, and thank you for your words of wisdom. We wish you all of the best for your future.
Thank you, Karen, and it's been lovely talking to you too.
Take care. Over the past 26 years, she has been actively involved in advancing mainstreaming disability in South Africa, on the African continent, and internationally, whilst being actively involved in business development to enable economic empowerment for marginalized and vulnerable groups in South Africa. Let's meet Sebenzile Matsebula. Disability Empowerment Concerns Holding Company is a registered trust established to engage in business and promote the employment and economic empowerment of persons with disabilities in ventures with which the DEC is concerned.
My name is Sebenzile Matsebula, born in Barberton many moons ago as the last member of a family of 7. So my mother was Zulu. She has since passed on, and after 7 children, she decided she had done her job, and therefore she called me Sebenzile. So we wanted to start our own political party as disabled people. But in the wisdom of Madiba, he called us aside through the leadership and said to us, you do know that there is power in numbers. So if you really want to make a change in who you are, what you are, and the kind of lives you'd like to see live in South Africa, you need to become part of a bigger movement. And at that time, it was the African National Congress. And indeed, we became a part of that establishment as opposed to forming our own. When we started off the agenda of mainstreaming disability, the issue was it needs to come from disabled people themselves to say what is it that they want and how is it that they want. So it was never about creating programs and only later thinking, oh, by the way, we're doing this for disabled people. It was about disabled people themselves being part and parcel of creating the transformation agenda. So for me, that's where Wealth Created started, developing policies and programs that would transform the lives of disabled people. Wealth creation for me personally has been, I must be honest and say, very rewarding experience, but very challenging. I've really had to sweat for it. But that's the nature of life, you know. You work for what you think and hope you will be rewarded with. So my message to young people is always that, you know, I know that we all want quick fixes, you know. We all want, you know, give me a job today and tomorrow I'm driving a whatever, X5 or whatever. But life doesn't work like that. You have to put in the time, the effort, the energy, the tears, the sweat to be able to move ahead in life. And therefore, for me personally, wealth creation has been driven by my activism, which really just gave me that sense of nothing is impossible.
After the break, as an all-inclusive economic development catalyst, the Small Enterprises Finance Agency, SEFA, has designed a scheme solely for entrepreneurs with disabilities. Welkom terug. Daar's 'n groeiende algemene kommer dat die meeste mense met gestremdhede in Suid-Afrika uitgesluit is van die hoofstroom samelewing. En dis nie toegang tot fundamentele sosiale en ekonomiese regte verkry het nie. In ons bulletin die week het ons gaan kyk na 'n skema wat spesifiek voorsiening maak vir ons.
My name is Don Mashele. I'm the head of Business Development Impact Support at SEFA. SEFA, Small Enterprise Finance Agency, is an implementing agency of the Department of Small Business Development. Under the department, we've got two agencies, ourselves, SEFA, and our sister agency, Small Enterprise Development Agency. But the program that we're talking about today, it's a program called Amavulandlela Funding Scheme. Amavulandlela Funding Scheme is a program that has been tailored to support entrepreneurs with disabilities. So what we have done is we have put aside some funding, ring-fence some funding where we have tailored a program for the priority target group being the entrepreneurs with disabilities. Through this scheme, entrepreneurs are able to get funding from SEFA, the minimum being 50,000 rand and the maximum being 15 million rand. And the interest rate that we charge through this program, it's a flat rate of 7%. So we don't put applications through a matrix where we'll price for risk. We charge a flat rate of 7%. So in closing, we're saying that we've got a scheme for entrepreneurs with disabilities, and to access the scheme, they just have to complete a simple application form and submit that at a nearest SEFA regional office.
People with disabilities can and should be active players in the mainstream economy. All barriers must be removed to enable them to access all available opportunities. David Mithi was born with club feet, which was partially corrected through surgery as a child. This enabled him to walk, albeit with difficulty. But the vision and determination of his family ensured that he accessed education. And he has established a number of successful businesses in Gauteng and Cape Town. We catch up with him in Soweto. Our communities often see persons with disabilities as beggars and burden. David has changed that perception through his work and the example he set, being an employer rather than an employee, being a wealth creator rather than a grant recipient.
Ile dlamini a Soweto la ifambisa ku business ra filling station aka nkarhi walowo hi mina lo fambisa ku bindzu leriwani ra filling station a Dlamini a Soweto. Ho hola o tswetse una le bohole go tloa o le monyane go batla ile ntwe e bima ntho ngwe la go kgothaletsa holo ke le lapa leso le tsamaileng le ntshwara ka letsoho le mpolella hore ke bohlale le anrata ene le nrata ka tsela eo ke leng ka yona go ba le dikgwebo o le motho ya holofetseng ho fa matla hore o tlameha jwale le wena o bapale karolo ka hara motse wa halona ka hara naha ya halona ka o iphumana o fa batho ba bang mosebetsi ha jwale dikgwebong tsohle tse ke di tsamaisang nka ba batho ba hodimo ho lekgolo bao ke kgonne ba fa menyetla kapa dikgwebo tseo ke di tsamaisang di kgonne ba fa menyetla and ha o shebile ha o file batho ba lekgolo mosebetsi o shebile lapa lena le batho ba bane o tshore indirectly you have given opportunities and the livelihoods to at least 400 people. Hanzo we cheba o le motho ya holofetseng and o tsamaya o di bankeng o fitla ba kwala mnyako ha o re batla ba jwetsa ka kgwebo ya hao ba re cheba ha ona boiphihlelo ke ka mo ke le ka iphumana ke la tasifa le teng ine lo leka ha o hlokahale hore ebe o na le boiphihlelo re tla o thusa re sebetse le wena re tsamaisane le wena tsela ena re o fe tšhelete o qale kgwebo ena e o batlang ho e qala. Ho batho bohle le babui bohle ka kakaretso empa ke shebisitse ho batho ba e loreng ba holofetse jwalo ka nna. Le nna ke ile ka sebetsa kgwebong tse kgolo naheng ya bo rona jwalo ka motho ya sebetsang. Empa ke itse ha ke sheba jwalo ka mosebetsi dikgwebong tseo ka re ha ke na fella mona.
Persone met gestremdhede moet 2 keer so hard werk om sukses te behaal soos ons gesien het in vandag se program. Till next week, be safe. Goodbye. Joe Nina needed to use a wheelchair 10 years ago after surviving a horrific accident and is one of the architects of Kwaito music. Yet few people know or ever acknowledge the fact. We end today's program with one of his songs called Love Song, featuring Professor and Zakwe. Till next time, same place, only on SABC2, You Belong.